Today's the day where we talk about the questions that you should be asking of your interviewer, and these matter way more than you think, friends. I know you just went through the Spanish Inquisition. I know they probed you like aliens do and to all your personal and professional habits, and you are burnt crispy like toast. You got nothing left except a couple of brain cells that are bouncing into each other going, oh, I just bombed that. Why did I say that? What the heck? And they go, do you have any questions for us? And you think, no, I don't. I can't. I mean, I do, but I can't think of any right now. And you just say, you've answered them all. I can't think of any. And you think maybe this is a compliment and you'll escape out of it. But in reality, no, you just missed the best opportunity to sell yourself to this future employer. So in this video, we're going to talk about why they matter so much, the things you should ask, and the things you should avoid. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Bree. I'm an RN/NP mentor, interview strategist, and content creator. Welcome to the channel. Okay, so first and foremost, why do they matter so much? I'm so glad you asked, friends. I'm so glad you asked. Here's why. The questions that you ask of me tell me more about you than the questions I ask of you. And I'm saying that with pauses for dramatic effect because it matters. It's the most important theme of this whole video. So let me say it again. The questions that you ask of me tell me more about you than the questions that I ask of you. Why? Well, here's why. When you ask a question, it tells me that you understand the complexities of this role more than you just telling me that in the way that you answered the questions I asked earlier. Because honestly, I can ask you a question like, what is your greatest strength? Or tell me about a time when you had a situation in your previous role with whatever. And we both know that you could be fabricating it. It just is what it is. It's your job to present yourself in the best light, and it's my job to filter through that and sort out what the truth actually is and determine if we're a good fit for each other. That's just the game. It's a corporate game. It is what it is. We all play it. But when you ask me stuff, you're not fabricating that. You can't insert more experience and understanding into the questions you ask than what you know. So let me say it in a little different way. Somebody who's had 10 years working as an ICU nurse practitioner understands intimately the challenges that are faced in that role. They understand things like, how many patients am I going to be required to take each day? Because that directly impacts my workflow and how much quality care I'm able to give. They know to ask things like, what are my resources at this place of employment? Do we have surgical services? When you ask those kind of questions, even if they're highly specific like that, it tells me that you've done this work and you know what the problems are, what to anticipate in order to ask your future employer how they plan to handle those problems. That tells me way more than anything that I asked of you earlier. Like, how much experience do you have in ICU work? This tells me more than what you answered. The second thing is that this puts a little bit of pressure on me, right? Now the pressure's on me to prove myself to you because you've just demonstrated to me that you know what the issues are, you're experienced, and because you have a higher expectation of what can be done to give you the proper resources to do your job, hey, this person's a catch. Wait. I need to prove myself to them a little bit. So it puts a little bit of ownership on me. Makes me feel like I gotta work for you. That's good. Put me in the hot seat for a little bit. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, when you ask relevant questions to me, it makes me feel that you're more engaged, more passionate, and that you really want this job. Because whether it's true or not, somebody who says no when they're asked if they have any questions, it kind of gives me an indirect or sort of subtle feeling of they don't really want this. Y'all, okay, so if you go on my website, if you are struggling with this interview process and you don't want to commit to a mock interview, you need some work, you know it, this is what you need to do. Go to my website, go to the digital courses page, and check out the very first digital course I've created. I'm so excited for. It's called Turn Your NP Interview into an Offer Easily. And it is so good. It's A to Z, how to prepare, how to practice, and how to perform in your interview. And y'all, once you understand that there is a way to study and prepare for this, just like it's the most lucrative test of your career, which it is, which is what all of our business colleagues do, but nobody ever taught us in nursing school, this is what you need. It is 3 hours of video content and 9 PDFs to help get you there. And it is literally start to finish. This is what you need to do in advance, day of, and how to perform. And let me just tell you, if you can match up your experience, with your performance in your interview, you are going to get a job offer. Hands down, for sure. So please go check it out. The first 10 people to sign up will get 10% off. And I will include the screenshot here so you can see what it looks like. But I think that you are going to love it. If you are in the market for an NP job and struggling and you're getting interviews but not offers, it's your interview that's lacking. So please go spend some time preparing for it, because there is a solution and it's so freeing once you realize it. All right, thanks for watching. The 2 categories that they come in. Okay, I love to talk about this. So 2 categories of questions you can ask. Questions that determine if this is a good fit for you, and questions that determine if this is a good fit for me. Both are equally important. Let me not be unclear about that. Both of these categories are equally important to determine if this is a mutually beneficial relationship that we're going into. We want to know if we're going to work well together for both of us. So they're both important. But my argument here is that one of these categories matters more than the other, given that you have a finite amount of time to prove yourself to these potential employers. Because of the time constraint issue, I would rather you focus on that. Is this a good fit for them? Is this a good fit for the employer? Because it's your final opportunity to sell yourself as the ideal, perfect person to put in this job. Okay, so first let's talk about, is it a good fit for you? These are typically going to be logistical kind of questions. So things that directly impact you, like schedule, salary, bonuses, vacations, hours, call schedule, all important for you to determine if you want to accept the job. So my favorites that fall into this category still help to demonstrate that you understand the complexities of this role while determining if this is a good fit for you. And here's some examples. How do you guys collaborate with each other? What is the relationship between MDs and NPs or PAs in this group? Can you describe a typical day? What's your onboarding like? How and when will I receive feedback? What is your attrition rate? Those kind of questions will benefit you, and you need them to determine whether or not this is the right fit for you. But they still show me that you understand some of the challenges that are faced in this role. Second category, is this a good fit for them? And the reason I prefer these is that this is an indirect sales pitch about why you are so competent and confident and such a good fit for them. It's a continuation of selling yourself and why you're the best person, most engaged, most passionate, most experienced person for this job. First example, what are qualities of an APP who thrives in this role? What are you looking for in an APP? Versus, have you hired an NP or PA in this role that has not been a good fit? And can you tell me a little bit about why they were not a good fit? Both of these questions focus in on you have a deep understanding and desire to perform well in this role, and you want to determine if you have what it takes to get there. I love these questions. It shows me that you are envisioning yourself in this role and that you strive to do well in this role. It just shows engagement and passion for this job. I also love, what challenges does this department face and what will be my role in tackling them? Oh, that's such a good question. It's such a good question. A specific example like this that I've used in the past is, how has COVID census surge affected your team? And along those lines, you could ask something like, what initiatives have you guys recently passed that you're proud of? You could ask, what do you love about working for this team? You could also ask, what opportunities for advancement are available? Another good one that I think is a great way to kind of wrap things up and end it is, do you have any hesitations about me as an employee that I could answer for you or help clarify in this time? I think that's a really good one too. Questions not to ask or questions to avoid. And some of these are kind of fringe level of like, in the right situation, it would probably be okay. Some of these I've asked before, but they're just kind of gray zone enough that I would probably stay away from them because you have so many other good options available to you. So number one is going to be anything culture related, along the lines of, does everybody here get along? What don't you like about working here? What's the worst part about this team? Any of those kind of questions I think are great for you. It can help you to see if there are some red flags there. but it doesn't go anywhere in helping them to feel relaxed. They're going to feel a little bit pressured, and they, quite frankly, might just lie to you. So you might not be getting a real answer anyways, and it's going to leave them feeling just a little bit tested and stressed. And if it's a job that you're unsure about, you've heard bad things about, or you really are trying to tease that stuff out, by all means, if you're not worried about losing the opportunity, ask away. You're gonna get some flags that may or may not be raised. But if you really want this job and it's super competitive, I would just stay away from these kind of questions. I would also not ask probably anything about administration. Typically, there's some degree of involvement from HR or administration in your interview, so I would kind of steer clear of this. Like, what are your administrators like? How do your administrators respond to your request and questions like that? Again, in the right situation might be very appropriate and okay, but presented in the wrong light, it could come across as feeling super weird and make people feel bad when they're asked that. Another question I would avoid would be the vague, like, what is your role kind of questions, because it can indicate in a very subtle or kind of in your face way that you have no idea what a person in this job does, and therefore you don't have experience. Something along the lines of, so what do y'all do here? I've never heard anybody ask this, but I could see a scenario where it could be asked, and that's why I bring it up. Another subcategory of questions that I would probably just steer away from are things that are commonly suggested to ask, but that may come across really weird or make people feel weird. And this would be something like, and some of it is truly just your wording and your body language when you say it, because what you mean can be something totally different than what comes out. So be very cautious with how you ask these kind of questions. So for example, what do you love about this type of work? This one kind of ties into the last one we just talked about, which is, what do you do here? Like, why are you asking me what I love about ICU? That makes me feel like you don't know what you love about ICU, which makes me think you don't have experience in ICU, which if you don't have experience in ICU and you're going as a new grad and they know you're a new grad, that's a different scenario. But in the situation where you're presenting yourself as someone with experience, it makes me think like, well, why don't you know? Versus saying, what do you love about working with this team? Big difference between those two, right? The role questions versus the team or setting, situation, hospital, like work group environment kind of questions are relevant and important, but like the role itself kind of questions, just, I don't really know how to put this into words, people, but it feels different. One feels like you want to know what the people are like that you're going to work with, and one feels like you want to know what the work is like that you're doing. And I anticipate if you have experience that you know what the work is like. So therefore you should be asking questions that tell me how we handle the challenges of the work that we do. I would avoid questions that make it seem like you don't want to go above and beyond. Things like, how many holidays are required? How much overtime is required? When you use those words like required, it makes me think, okay, this person has limitations on what they're willing to do, which is good and true, and we all have them. Again, we're playing this corporate game in an interview, and you want to present yourself as the most willing to do everything and go beyond. That's just the game we're playing, friends. And the last category would be things that make them feel very pressured, particularly financial, like how much is the pay? What's the salary? Also kind of fringy is, when can I start? When will you have a decision? I have heard people say before, when can I expect to hear from you? And I think that feels a little different than when will you have a decision. I don't know why, and I again struggle to put this into words. Some of it is how you say it and the emphasis behind it and the passion behind it. So I think if you're not able to present it in a way that it's very clear to people that you're not pressuring them, it's okay. Just be very, very clear in your presentation with those kind of questions.